The Azurite system is shit. A surprise to no one, as it was reported months ago during beta, just how unfun, and even punishing the system was. But Blizzard did what they always do in those situations. They took our criticisms, tucked them safely behind their scrotum sacks, and farted out what is arguably the worst gearing system in the history of World of Warcraft. Before we go on dispensing any more hyperbole, no matter how truthful, let's see if we can look at pros, as well as cons, and see if there are actually any redeeming qualities. For the purposes of this video, I will only be using spec-specific traits as examples, because the non-denominational traits are boring as shit, and any spec who feels pressured into using them because they are more powerful, is just proving the detractors right. Let's try and start with some positivity though. Yay. What the fuck is wrong with this dude's elbow? There are a few specs that have some measure of choice in their traits. Restoration Druid going for Grove Tending over Rampant Growth to allow for a slightly different playstyle. Mist Weavers stacking up Lifted Spirits for massive dungeon burst, or sneaking in a Misty Peaks for a nice haste buff on top of their empowered Vivify spam. Unfortunately those choices are gated behind such a huge RNG clusterfuck. You'll be lucky if you ever even see the trait you want, let alone an item level upgrade. Good luck you fucking plebeies. Healers probably have the best pool of traits to choose from overall, although that really isn't saying much considering there are only about 6 spec-specific traits available for most of them. You have a better chance of being accused of sexually assaulting someone and getting elected to the Supreme Court than you do getting the traits that you want. You have to keep in mind, if there is a specific trait that you're after, the odds are good that you're going to want it on all 3 pieces of your gear, which means the best you can possibly hope for, because Azurite gear doesn't Titan Forge, is farming 340 Azurite gear from Mythic 0. Those dungeons are on a weekly lockout, which means you have 1 chance per week per gear slot, just to get the bare minimum acceptable gear to feel effective in whatever content you're taking part in. A few lucky players may have an extra chance or 2 to see their traits drop from bosses in Uldid, but there are only a handful of examples. Fuck you Mist Weavers. They recently increased the item level of the Azurite gear we receive from completing our emissaries, but even those are often the wrong traits. So what the fuck? How do we feel any sense of reward in BFA that doesn't have us crossing our fingers before we open a weekly chest, or before our emissary turn-ins? The answer is, we don't. There is no real sense of reward in the current BFA gearing system. The most targeted approach will only yield gear of an already irrelevant item level. Wearing a piece of 310 Azurite gear with the desired trait is more powerful than a piece of 370 gear with a less effective trait on it, at least with Legion legendaries. Getting even your worst in slot Lego first could still be an overall power increase. What we have here is a system that didn't even work on paper, as I assume Blizzard devs are just sitting in their high chairs with a box of half-chewed up crayons drawing out ideas on dirty strip club cocktail napkins brought home by their glitter-covered D-list stripper mums the night before. That's right. Cinnamon has accosted us. Thank you for your contribution to WoW's bleak future. However, with all of that said, I am slightly optimistic. With patch 8.1 we will see the introduction of an additional ring, offering more spec-specific trait options, giving us our first real sense of spec development in BFA, and judging from some of the traits we've already data mined, free talent procs for Windwalker, an absorb shield on Leap of Faith, bigger tits for warriors. It appears as though Blizzard is trying to give us some actual gameplay options. Some of our current lackluster traits will be changed or removed altogether, and replaced with something potentially more interesting. The only thing we don't know yet is if there will be any new method of acquisition, as that is probably the biggest problem overall. I really hope they address it, but it is Blizzard, so more than likely, they will just give us the extra ring and call it a day. Good luck you fucking plebeies. Thank you for watching. If you would like to see more videos like this, stick your dick in that like button and break it off. Then subscribe. Then hit the bell icon. Because one subscribe button just isn't enough for the flaccid whiteys running around naked at the YouTube offices.